This is Leslie Walker-Hirsch, and today I'm talking with Bill Taverner, a great friend of sex education. Bill is the executive director of the Center for Sex Education and is the chief editor of the American Journal of Sexuality Education. Bill's organization also convenes and runs the National Sex Ed Conference, along with conference chair Karen Rain and associate chairs Jen Hart and Lorena Oliveira. Bill, I'm so glad that you're here. The conference that you're running is going to be on December 9th to 11th, and you're going to hold it in New Brunswick, New Jersey. So glad to see you.
It's so good to see you too, Leslie.
The technology is wonderful that we can talk from so far away so easily. Bill, we know that the Center for Sex Education provides services to all people, not just those who have intellectual or developmental disabilities. So what is your involvement with people who do have intellectual and developmental disabilities?
Working with people with intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities was my first career. Long before I got into sexuality education, I managed group homes for people with intellectual disabilities on Staten Island and then in Brooklyn and New York. And it was very early in my career that my first employer sent me to an all-day training on sexuality and people with intellectual disabilities. And you were the trainer, Leslie, and that sparked my interest in blending the field and wanting to do something that provided a service, a much needed service for people with disabilities.
Well, that's great. I'm so thrilled that I've had not only influence on the field of intellectual and developmental disabilities and sexuality, but because you have become a major leader in our field, that the influence goes way further than that. Many people with intellectual disabilities are not likely to become sexually active and live independently. So why do you think sex education is important for that group of children, teens, and adults?
Well, I think that we unfortunately have in our society an assumption of asexuality of people with intellectual disabilities. It's a myth that's perpetuated, and really we are all sexual beings from birth until death, and the sexual rights and needs of people with intellectual disabilities are just as important as anyone else. In addition, there's certain vulnerabilities and concerns that people with intellectual disabilities have that need to be addressed, need skills that need to be taught in order for them to be able to protect themselves from exploitation, being taken advantage of, while also knowing the way that their bodies function and the basic elements of sexuality. That many of us learn when we're young, and those of us who don't learn it when we're young, we need to continue learning it.
I have some statistics here. We know that 80% of women and 30% of men with intellectual disabilities report having been sexually abused. That is approximately 10 times the rate as compared to the same age, same sex peers without disabilities. And it's been supposed that that represents only 3% of the actual abuse that has happened because it's so underreported. Those numbers are very disturbing. How do you think sex education for people with intellectual disabilities might drive those numbers down?
Well, first, I want